Today we're going to get started with our Reimagined Masterpiece in Adobe Fresco. I'm going to start by opening up the app, and I'm going to select the letter size 8.5 by 11, 300 ppi. Once I've opened my canvas, I'm going to go ahead and pinch it down because I like to see all four sides. I'm going to start by bringing in my reference image, and I selected a Vincent van Gogh sunflower painting. So I'm going to go ahead and choose it and then grab the corners to make it as large as I can and as close to the canvas size as possible, being careful not to warp the image. So I'm going to go ahead and slide it over just a touch. Perfect. I'm going to click done, and it is almost exact, but we can trim a little bit if we need to, but I think I'll be good to go. I'm going to go ahead and slide this layer down so it's right above my background, and I'm actually going to bring in another reference, and for my project I selected a color palette that is kind of the complementary. So I'm going to go ahead and choose from my photos. I have these purple, orange, pink tones that I'm going to actually use as my kind of reference. So to do that, I'm just going to drop them in the top, and I'm going to go ahead and create recent palettes. So by doing that, I won't have to continue to grab from the picker. So I'm going to use the picker, and I'm going to select each one, and I'm just going to go ahead and I can turn this eye off so you can see what I'm doing here. I'm just going to go ahead and use each one really quickly, and this is going to make it much easier to grab my colors once I get going, so I don't have to keep going back and forth. So I am just grabbing the picker, picking each color, jumping to my brush, and using them really quickly. Okay, so now I can actually turn the eye back on the Vincent van Gogh painting. I'm going to turn the eye off on those little samples that I just made. I'm just going to slide them down. I don't need them right now. And if I wanted to, I could also get rid of that palette now. So I could click on this image, I could grab it and delete it. If I wanted to, I can move this up here, whatever you want. So now I'm on an empty layer. Okay, now I'm going to start thinking about how to work with this painting. So I'm painting over the painting. What I will do is begin by grabbing some of my live brushes, and I'm going to go to the oil. And there are lots of different oils that you can try out. You can see what works well for you. I'm going to go ahead and start with the round, and working with the recents down here, I'm going to start with that kind of mid-tone orange and start to lay in my background, being careful to make sure that I am on the correct layer. And don't forget, you can always zoom in. So I'm going to start to paint with my new color palette. And the cool thing is, as I zoom in, you can see how these live brushes have this oil paint texture. So I'm kind of using my stylus like I would create brush strokes to almost recolor what is already there. So I might start with this tone here. And maybe I go with a similar but slightly different, maybe more muted tone here. And I can just start to blend and paint. Now I might do something surprising, which is kind of our goal here, and use this purple where Van Gogh used the brown. So I'm going to start to bring in my own color palette as I begin to work here. One of the things that I was most excited about is using these vibrant purples and pinks for the sunflowers themselves. So I thought that it would be really fun to completely change the color of the sunflowers. So I might, instead of having these green centers, have these hot pink centers. And go ahead and paint that in. And then on top of that, begin to layer in this purple, which I really like. And so you can kind of see my brush strokes again, like we talked about. And the thing that we know about Van Gogh and most Impressionist and Post-Impressionist painters is they have this really kind of heavy tactile mark making. So to bring that out, we need to add variety to our tone. So I might have this purple and I might add some darker purples to layer over top. I might adjust my brush size. I might adjust the flow. If I want a really heavy flow, it's gonna look like it's painted on thicker. And so you'll begin to recreate this painting in your new spin, and periodically it's helpful to go ahead and turn the eyeball off and see just what you have on the canvas. And then you can really get a great idea of how this digital paint really looks like live paint. So I would continue to work around. I definitely encourage you to work background to foreground so that you are layering. It's also helpful if maybe you do the table on one layer and then the vase on the layer on top of it, so that things are overlapping and you have a little bit more wiggle room. That's going to be really important. I'm absolutely going to do my background pink or my background layer, which is currently yellow. Maybe I make it a different shade of this pink. And I would do this on a completely separate layer. So that way, when I go to paint the sunflower, so if I wanted to do this background, I'm just gonna do it really quickly, and then paint any of these flowers, I would go ahead and paint them on top of a different layer because I don't have to worry about overlapping. So I can zoom in here and show you how this purple is now going to sit on top of that pink. There's a little bit of blending that happens as well, but it gives me the ability to put the pink background behind my purple sunflower. So this should be a lot of fun. You can see the harder I press, I get a great texture. So cool, very Van Gogh-like, which is why I think it's a lot of fun. So have fun with it, and if things aren't working out, you can just delete that layer, delete that section, and try something new. Once your entire painting is reimagined, you'll go ahead and save it and submit.